Yeah, this is here and welcome to another video. Today we're doing another video in Hermitcraft Genesis. We are on book 5, if you haven't already told. We are planning to read chapter 15 and maybe 16 today. We'll see how far we go, but yeah. Enjoy the pattern that's on screen, or read the captions that are available, or just whatever you want. If you haven't watched the other episodes, there is a playlist in the description, and there will be a link to the next video when it comes out, if you are interested to continue. That choice is up to you, and if I forget, you can let me know too. I'll try to remember. Chapter 15. Brian led B-Dubs out into the hallway, spotting the others just down the hall. Matthias kept watch of their surroundings, while the teens tended to the hermits with them. Brian could spot Jem, Pearl, and someone else in the crowd as he drew closer. "Where's Dippledop? I'm not leaving without Dippledop." A muscular man tried to pull himself away from Isaac as Blake offered him a potion of strength. "You are in no shape to help anyone at the moment," Liam cautioned from behind Blake, his arms crossed. Kate was up ahead, catching up to the group. "That's everyone from these 3 cells, right?" Jem asked quickly. Kate asked quickly. Sorry. Miss standing beside Liam, looking at the exhausted hermits. Jem and Pearl's eyes were half closed, and the man's body was shaking. "Yep," Liam replied, glancing over his shoulder, spotting B-Dubs and Brian. "How is he?" He wanted to see you," Brian said simply. Reaching the group, B-Dubs groaned, blinking his eyes blearily. "It's impulse," B-Dubs whispered, looking up to meet the boy's eyes. "They wanted to know how we got there." "Where?" Liam turned to face the hermit as the group grew quiet. "Wunderberg." "Oh." Liam gulped, his face paling a few shades as he nodded his understanding. "What's Wunderberg?" Brian frowned. "A place Impulse and I went to. My aunt wanted to check on it to make sure it was secure," Liam said quickly, pulling B-Dubs from him before handing him over to Caleb. "We have to hurry." "Can you guys get the hermits out okay?" Kate asked hopefully. Zayas nodded. "We should be able to manage. I ask you to be careful, though, Caitlin. I'll leave a team here to wait for you here in case you need backup." "We'll be careful," she insisted, turning toward the other end of the hallway. "It's really intense." As if on cue, a scream filled the air. A shiver ran down Brian's spine as one of the hermits struggled to pull away. "We have to stop them!" "Liam and his team will stop them," Isaac said firmly, tightening his grip on the hermit. "You'll be okay." "Sure doesn't sound okay," the hermit grumbled, managing to rip one arm out of the boy's grip. "Skids, please," Blake insisted, pushing the hermit back down. "I can't have you going into danger in a state like this. You're in no shape to fight." "But Impulse," Skids protested. "He's my charge. I'm not going until I get him back," Blake stated firmly, keeping the hermit down until Skids relented. "I promise." "I don't think you can hold it much longer," Skids mumbled, shaking his head. "Then we should go," Blake said matter-of-factly, turning to Liam as the young teen nodded. Brian followed the small group, passing Summer as she slipped out of one of the other cells. He didn't have time to greet her as he charged after his friends. Hearing another scream, "Kate, Brian, why don't you take that room over there?" Liam pointed to the door on the right. "Blake and I will take the other." "You got it," Kate nodded, practically pouncing at the lever that sealed the door as she yanked it down. The door slammed open as she bolted inside. Brian was right behind her, stopping in his tracks as he took in the scene. The room was similar to Beats' cell. 2 uniformed men were in the cell, one by the table, fiddling with a machine, and the other looming over a figure lying on the ground. "Get away from him!" Kate bellowed, charging at the man looming over the bound figure, tackling him as they hurled over the figure, as the guy by the table yelped in surprise. Before he could jump into action and press any buttons, Brian leapt on him and sent him plummeting to the floor. Before Brian knocked him out, he pulled out what remaining rope he had and bound the man's hands and feet together. You can't do this, please. A whimper filled the room as Brian looked up, seeing the figure of a man on the floor. His eyes were closed tightly shut. Beads of sweat poured down his forehead. The headband glowed bright green as Brian got up to the machine, examining it quickly before turning it off. Scar? Kate asked, pulling away from her victim. As she went to his side, she ripped off the headband once it had stopped glowing, gently shaking the hermit by the shoulders. Scar, it's okay. Safe to wake up now. You won't get away with this. Scar wheezed through coughs. He groaned again, beginning to stir as Kate loomed over him. You have any more strength potions on you? Kate looked up at Brian. Brian quickly pulled out his shulker box and tossed it down before offering a potion to her. Perfect, she beamed, taking it from his outstretched hand, carefully lifting Scar's head as the hermit's eyes began to flutter. She put the bottle to the hermit's lips, dipping it just enough to allow the liquid to pour into his mouth. Kate? Scar rasped, finally opening his eyes. The girl smiled gently, offering him to take another sip. He took it without question, as Brian went to kneel beside her. Will he be okay? Kate asked with uncertainty, as she finished giving him the potion, tossing it aside. Scar's eyes had grown heavy now, but his eyes were still looking at the girl. I think so, Brian replied, hoping to reassure the girl. Kate looked over at him, meeting his gaze. He could see pain in her eyes, along with an unquenching fire. Kate nodded, looking back down at her friend. We're going to get you all out of here, I promise. Scar smiled sadly. I know. Kate wiped tears from her eyes as she looked away, her attention moving to the commotion happening across the hall. When the two of them had entered, Brian had heard the sound of screams and explosions. But now, everything was quiet. You think I'd be strong enough to carry him out of here? Kate asked softly, bringing Brian's attention back to the moment. What, you? He's at least twice your size. Brian stared at her. Kate shrugged. Having a serial killer in my head does have its benefits. Stronger now than he used to be. Brian nodded, looking back down at the hermit between them. He's now fast asleep, his expression peaceful. It's worth a try. Can't leave him here. No, Kate agreed, getting to her feet when they heard the sound of footsteps. Brian jumped to his feet and turned in time to see Blake coming out of the other cell, half carrying someone with him. Impulse! The hermit looked up, groggy at the sound at his name. Kate? What are you doing here? We came to get you out, Blake said gently. The hermit shook his head slowly. Is Liam still inside? Brian frowned, glancing back over at the unconscious man that Kate had fought. He wasn't bound, but he didn't have much rope left to do anything with him. He's getting green, Blake says blandly. They tied the ropes pretty tight. Impulse let out a shake sigh. This wasn't any nightmare. Reggie knew it too. Reggie is here? Brian's eyes widened. Was. He disappeared when we ambushed the guy behind the table. Liam went for RJ, but somehow the man gave him the slip. Blake scowled. He'll pay. I'll pay. Kate spat, lifting Scar into her arms with ease. Doesn't Rose want them alive? Blake frowned. She's not in charge now, is she? Kate said defiantly. If I see either of those three, I'm not hesitating to give them a lethal blow. Brian shuddered. I don't blame you after seeing this. Kate nodded, looking toward the door. Brian followed her gaze, gulping when he saw Liam step out into the hallway, holding the limp, unconscious form of his charge. Green's face was pale, white as a ghost. Burn marks and soot covered his red sweater. Brian could barely see the hermit's chest rising and falling. A glimpse of life. Just glancing at the time. We need to get them out of here, Blake replied, pulling his charge closer to keep him from stumbling. What about Charlie and Henry? Brian insisted. They could still be down here. You heard what the man said. Liam shook his head. He could have been lying, Brian stated. I'm not leaving until I know for sure they're not down here. Liam and Blake exchanged glances before Liam sighed. Let's get the hermits to the others that Matthias left, and see from there. Brian relaxed his shoulders as he left the cell. Kate followed shortly behind him, simmering anger wafting off her as the group headed down the hall. The young teen could see 3 figures ahead. Caleb, Eliza, and Summer were waiting for them by the fork display in the hallway. Summer, what are you still doing here? Brian picked up his pace, running up to meet them. Summer's bright blue eyes pierced the boy. I'm not leaving until I know what happened to my friends. It's not safe, Lorraine insisted. We tried telling her that, Eliza countered. She won't listen to reason. Not unlike some other people I know, Liam shook his head. Are the others safe? Yes, Caleb said with a nod, taking the scarf from Kate. Messiah said we couldn't stay long. Do we have everyone? The hermits are accounted for, Brian reported. We need to get them out of here before Dr. Rhinestone or our other friends fetch for them. And we need to find Charlie and Henry, Summer said, lifting her chin defiantly. We can do that, but you don't have to put yourself in danger for it, Brian urged. Summer shook her head as the teen sighed. Okay, so you and Kate are coming with me. Yep, Kate's eyes flashed. Are you sure you don't want me to come? Liam asked hesitantly. Brian turned to him. Your charge will need you more than I do. I'll be fine. Liam nodded, tightening his grip on the hermit. Please be careful. We'll be back to report to you as soon as possible, Brian promised, putting a hand on his best friend's shoulder. There's a lot we need to talk about after this. Certainly, Liam agreed, turning to the others. Eliza gave the 3 of them wary glances before leading Caleb, Blake, and Liam down the hall, toward the maze that ultimately would lead them home. Chapter 16. Brian led the way down the hall, toward the left wing this time. Kate and Summer were right behind him as he eyed the closed doors around them. Where did they lead to? Were they going to be able to find the answers they were looking for? He slowed to a stop when he started to hear voices in one of the rooms next to him. He glanced over at the girls. Kate nodded silently as they slipped out of view of the doorway, which was open a crack. The voices were growing louder as Brian tensed. The owners of the voices getting closer or more heated. They had one job! One job! An unfamiliar voice huffed in frustration. How hard is it to keep a few protectors busy while we do the dirty work? Richard, you must understand that these men weren't at their strongest, a calmer voice cautioned. Wanda warned us that they might not be ready. How long does it take? It's only a matter of time before they take more of our bases. More of their bases? Brian raised an eyebrow, glancing over at Kate, who was biting her bottom lip, trying but failing to hide a smile. Wonder what that's about. Dog. They can take our army, but they cannot take our will, the calmer voice said simply. You and I both know that victory doesn't happen overnight. We have wins and we have losses. How can we win if we don't know where they are? Richard grumbled. We have waited decades for the day where we could finally accomplish what we set out to do. But we seem to be back right to where we started. Not for long, I'm sure, the other man replied. Just want to march up there and just destroy them myself. That seems to be the only way that actually works. With the amount of protectors upstairs, I doubt you'd last long. Try me, Richard grunted. I'm tired of waiting. Tired of watching them keep outsmarting us. It's not fair. It only means we get better, the other man said calmly. Dr. Rhinestone's experiments have been going quite well. Even if our current army is destroyed, we can still rebuild, so long as we have Kate's blood at our disposal. Brian could see the teen tense beside him. Her jaw clenched. He glanced over at her as their eyes met. Before he could say anything, a door opened from inside the room. "Ah, there you are," the calmer man said contentedly. "How have the boys been with their recent experiments?" "They're survivors, that's for sure," a woman's voice reported. Her voice seemed smug and confident, almost proud. "Kimberly, Sharp, it's good to see you two again," the man replied. "We don't necessarily have good news for you, sir," one of the new arrivals replied. "The school was recaptured by one of the hermits that evaded our attack." "So?" the man asked. "Gosh, boys," Richard grumbled. "Yes, sir. Carnivore is currently trying to see if he can get into the school and snatch the Uders, but they are under strict protection," the man stated. "Very well. We may have to wait a while, or try a new angle. Thank you for reporting. Sharp?" "Pleasure is mine, Andrew," Sharp assented. Brian couldn't see the man from here, but he could guess the man was nodding. "Who's Carnivore?" Kate whispered. Brian jumped, butting back a cry as he looked back at her. "I'm guessing he's the new head of the cause, or at least the head of the defectors," Brian replied nonchalantly. "His name was thrown around when I was in prison at school." "Okay," Kate nodded, keeping her voice soft. "I wonder who that Kimberly guy is. He's holding a heavy shoulder box or something." Summer squinted, peering through a crack in the door. The crack in the door. Well, obviously, it's the crack in the door because it's open a crack, but... I'm shaking a little bit. I haven't had my snack yet. So, yeah, I need a little bit of protein for energy. I think they're vials. Great, Kate muttered under her breath. We can't let them take those and use them, especially if they have a speck of Joel's blood in there. "How?" Brian asked, looking between the two girls. "What else do you see, Summer?" "A woman in a lab coat. She's standing with two guys. One of them is also in a lab coat with another a black leather jacket. Sorry, it's a bit of a tongue twister." "Andrew and Richard Jarkin," Kate stated matter-of-factly, "also known as Mr. A and RJ, respectively." "Huh." Summer looked over at the girl. "How would you know that if the cause had been spending years trying to find their identities?" "New development of the plan, I guess," Kate shook. "What about that Sharp guy?" "I don't know any of these people." Summer shook her head. "Maybe one of you should take my spot." "I can. I know most of the people in that room," Kate offered. The girl quickly switched places, so that Summer knelt beside Brian and Kate peered through the crack of the door. She gasped, pulling back a moment later, her face growing pale. "What is it?" Brian asked. Kate shook her head as tears filled her eyes. "It makes sense. Kimberly is my last name." "You mean that's your dad in there?" Summer stared at the girl. Kate nodded. "I thought they were dead. Maybe they never were." "Why would Mr. A spare them if he wanted to recruit you?" Summer insisted before blushing. "Sorry, I might have heard a little conversation between you and Clara." "It's okay," Kate said gently. "I've been trying to figure that out, too. My dad used to work for Mr. A. He helped him with monetary support. Rhinestone met my dad when he was helping with packages." "So much sense." The more she spoke, the more rage Brian could see in the girl's eyes. Kate clenched her fists, keeping her hands on the floor as she looked back through the door. They walked further away. Rhinestone and the Jargons are talking about something in the corner while my dad is sorting the vials on a shelf. "Where's Sharp?" Brian asked curiously. "I don't see—" She yelped, and a hand reached out from behind her, grabbing her by her hair and yanking her back. Kate! Summer's eyes grew wide as Brian took the large, muscular man standing before them, tightening his grip through Kate's dark red hair as she struggled to pull away. "Let me go!" Kate hissed, trying to pry the man's fingers out of her hair. The man, sharp, no doubt, looked bored as he slammed her against the wall just as the door opened. "What is the meaning of this?" A second man shouted in the doorway. "Let go of my daughter, Sharp!" Sharp paused, looking down at the girl before looking up at him. A smirk appeared on his face as he gestured to the other two. "We should probably grab them before they think of screaming." Kimberly turned toward Brian and Summer as Brian pulled the girl to her feet. "You need to run." "I'm not leaving without Charlie or Henry," she hissed. "It's better if two of us get captured while someone gets help," Brian urged, pushing her behind him as Kimberly lunged for him. "Dad, no! Leave them alone!" Kate pleaded, grunting in pain as Sharp pinned her to the wall, pulling her hands behind her. Kimberly ignored her, tackling Brian to the cold, hard floor. Brian gasped in pain, seeing stars in his vision as he blinked them away, struggling to push the man off him. "Run, Summer!" He heard Summer scream as Sharp tore after her when he was sure Kate wouldn't go anywhere. Excuse me. Kate cried out in desperation as the three figures appeared in the doorway. "Oh, look at that!" Rainstone smiled coldly. "Welcome back, Caitlin. We've missed you, and you brought some friends." Brian heard another cry from the hallway as he closed his eyes, taking a deep breath, trying to calm his racing heart. Kimberly tightened his thick ropes around his wrists. Brian winced at the threads biting against his skin. The man didn't seem to care as he got to his feet, turning to his daughter. "Where's your mother?" the man asked firmly. Kate narrowed her eyes. How can you say that when his eyes are closed? Her gaze was like stone cold, hard, and uncaring. Like stone. Sorry. Cold, hard, and uncaring. "You'll never find her again, you traitor." "You call me a traitor after everything you've done? After everything I asked of you?" Kimberly approached the girl. Kate stood up straighter, using the wall to steady herself. "You wanted me to join them, didn't you? To join Mr. A's cause, to destroy the YouTubers, to let Rhinestone do her dirty experiments on me." Tears filled the girl's eyes as the man stood before her, lifting up her chin. "You never cared about the Hermits, did you? You'd rather see them die after everything they did for our family." "You'll understand someday," her father said roughly, stroking her cheek with a finger. "Stay away from me!" Kate spat at him, tears pouring down her face. "You never truly cared about Mom, about me. You were just using us for your own gain." "Of course I care. Father wouldn't make his daughter think he was dead," Kate sniffed. "A father wouldn't let a woman conduct horrible experiments on his daughter while he stood by. A husband wouldn't let the same woman hurt his wife. Why would you do that? I hate you." "No, you don't," Kimberly said sadly. He stepped away before grabbing his daughter by the shoulders. "Richard, help the boy up. I think we're ready to finish this." Brian tensed as Richard stepped toward him, looming over him before dragging the teen to his feet. Brian struggled, looking back, hearing muffled sobs as he widened his eyes. Summer was firmly in Sharp's grasp as she was dragged down the hall toward them, kicking and clawing at her captor, trying to escape. It was pointless. All of it was pointless. They were cornered, with no way to go for help.